By the middle of the 22nd century, humanity had changed in ways that no one in history could have imagined. Earth had grown crowded, the natural resources of the planet strained under the weight of billions of people, and climate challenges had forced nations to work together more than ever before. It was during this period of struggle and cooperation that humans began to look to the stars, not just as a place of wonder, but as a necessary frontier for survival and growth. The earliest generations of space explorers were adventurers, scientists, and dreamers. They left Earth in ships small enough for a few brave souls, venturing toward the Moon, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Their missions were dangerous, often requiring them to live in isolation for months, adapting to hostile environments and learning to survive in ways no human had ever done before. These pioneers laid the foundation for the human reach beyond the solar system. Decades passed, and small colonies on Mars, the Moon, and distant asteroids began to thrive. Scientists and engineers discovered ways to terraform environments, create sustainable food sources, and produce energy in places that were once thought impossible to inhabit. The knowledge gained from these experiments on other worlds made humans bold. They began building ships capable of traveling faster and farther than ever before, propelled by innovations that relied on physics most people had once thought of as purely theoretical. Humanity was no longer bound to Earth. It had become a spacefaring civilization. It was not long before humans began encountering alien life. Some encounters were simple, peaceful exchanges with species that lived in remote star systems. Other encounters were more complex, with intelligent civilizations that had their own governments, technology, and ways of life. Humanity had learned early on that the galaxy was a complicated place, filled with alliances, rivalries, and codes that were foreign to earthly politics. These alien civilizations had long ago formed what became known as the Galactic Council, a coalition of powerful species that maintained order and regulated relations between different worlds. The Council was an impressive, highly organized system, with representatives from each species contributing to decisions that affected the galaxy. Their power was unmatched, their technology centuries ahead of anything humans had yet created, and their ability to enforce rules feared across star systems. The Council saw humans as a young and unpredictable species. While they recognized human ingenuity, they also worried about human recklessness. Earth had a history of conflict, wars fought over resources, borders, and ideology. The Council members assumed that humans might extend this pattern to the wider galaxy if left unchecked. Still, humans had qualities that other species lacked: adaptability, creativity, and an audacity that was almost reckless but often brilliant. These traits fascinated some members of the Council and annoyed others. They were unpredictable, yes, but capable of actions that could surprise even the most experienced alien leaders. By the time humanity had built its first fleet capable of interstellar travel, relations with other species were still fragile. Humans had a reputation for questioning authority, challenging rules, and improvising solutions that no one else would dare attempt. Their ships, although smaller and less powerful than those of the Galactic Council, were incredibly fast and maneuverable, making them difficult to contain. Humans had learned to use what they had in ways that often turned disadvantage into advantage, a skill born from centuries of overcoming challenges on a planet that had pushed them to the limits. The spark for the confrontation that would become legendary began with a small, resource-rich planet in the Zarkin Nebula. This planet was perfect for mining rare materials crucial for advanced technologies, not only for humans but for many species across the galaxy. Humans had established a colony there, carefully planning it to avoid conflict and maximize sustainability. However, other species, particularly those in the Galactic Council, began to notice the colony. They saw it as a potential threat, an uncontrolled human presence in a strategic location. Tensions quietly grew, with the Council debating whether to demand the humans leave, attempt negotiations, or take a more aggressive approach. Humans, for their part, were unaware of the growing concern at first. The colony was a point of pride for them, a demonstration of what human ingenuity and persistence could achieve. They had built cities powered by renewable energy sources, established advanced AI systems to manage resources, and trained the first generation of children born and raised entirely off Earth. Life on the colony was challenging but rewarding. Every problem required creativity and collaboration, whether it was finding ways to recycle water in a planet where rivers did not naturally flow or adapting machinery designed for Earth's gravity to function in lower or higher gravity environments. The settlers' resilience mirrored that of their ancestors who had once crossed oceans, climbed mountains, and endured harsh conditions on Earth. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity watched the growth of interstellar colonies with excitement and pride. These colonies represented more than just human expansion. They symbolized the unyielding spirit of the species. The schools and media celebrated the pioneers, broadcasting stories of their bravery and innovation. Children dreamed of becoming space explorers, inspired by tales of survival, discovery, and defiance in the face of impossible odds. Governments, corporations, and scientific organizations invested heavily in space technology, ensuring that humanity would remain competitive in the galaxy. Every discovery, every new settlement, added to the growing reputation of humans as both unpredictable and remarkably capable. The Galactic Council, however, did not share the human enthusiasm. To them, humans were still a young species that had yet to prove their reliability in the cosmic community. They were concerned that humans might disrupt carefully balanced systems or provoke conflicts over resources and territories. Some council members even argued that humans should be contained or closely monitored to prevent potential chaos. Despite these worries, others on the council were curious about humans. Observing them with a mixture of wariness and admiration, they watched how humans solved problems creatively, how they adapted to challenges that might have destroyed other civilizations, and how their unity often emerged in the most critical situations. This dynamic set the stage for a clash that would capture the attention of the entire galaxy. Humans, armed with boldness, ingenuity, and a deep sense of independence, were not accustomed to yielding to authority, especially from outsiders who seemed distant and overly cautious. They were willing to challenge conventions, push boundaries, and stand firm in defending what they believed was rightfully theirs. The Galactic Council, a symbol of order and experience, assumed that their authority would naturally command obedience. Neither side fully understood the strength and determination of the other, yet both were about to be tested in ways that would become legendary. Even in the early days, humans' expansion into space was guided by necessity as much as ambition. Earth's growing population demanded resources and opportunities, and the planet itself could no longer provide for all its inhabitants. Space offered possibilities that were both practical and aspirational. Every settlement represented human creativity. Cities built inside asteroids to protect from cosmic radiation, farms suspended in orbit with artificial sunlight, and ships that could travel hundreds of light years in months. Humans had to solve problems creatively, often using limited materials, time, and knowledge. These experiences shaped them into a species that could think quickly, act decisively, and adapt to circumstances that might overwhelm others. As news of humans' colonization of the Zarkon Nebula reached the Galactic Council, debates intensified. The Council's meetings were elaborate affairs, with representatives from dozens of species, each bringing their own priorities, prejudices, and experiences. The humans' presence on the planet was debated with seriousness, because it touched on more than just territory. It represented human audacity, their ability to defy expectations, and their capacity to thrive in environments that others considered hostile. Some council members suggested sending envoys to demand humans leave, while others argued for a show of force. Few expected that humans would respond with anything but caution, but no one could predict the humans' next move. At the heart of this unfolding drama were the humans themselves, many of whom had no idea of the political tensions their presence had caused. Life in the colonies was focused on survival, development, and growth. Scientists studied alien flora and fauna. Engineers expanded cities into safe and efficient networks, and young colonists learned skills that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago. The settlers' daily lives, full of both routine and innovation, reflected the broader human spirit, curiosity, determination, and an unwillingness to be constrained by fear or uncertainty. In essence, this period was a turning point for humanity. They were no longer a species confined to a single planet. They had ventured into the stars, met other civilizations, and faced challenges that required courage, intellect, and unity. Their successes made them both admired and feared. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test their abilities, resolve, and spirit in ways that no human had experienced before. The Galactic Council, confident in its power and history, assumed that humans would bow to the authority of the galaxy. Humans, however, had learned from centuries of struggle on Earth that yielding was not always an option. Their audacity, creativity, and resilience would soon collide with the expectations of the galaxy's most powerful council, setting the scene for a story that would be remembered for generations. As the humans' colonies in the Zarkon Nebula flourished, the Galactic Council's attention grew sharper, and tensions began to mount. What had started as curiosity and cautious observation evolved into concern and, for some members, frustration. The humans were thriving in a territory that others considered strategically significant. Their cities expanded, their resource-gathering operations became more efficient, and their technologies, though still primitive compared to many council species, were inventive, unpredictable, and adaptive in ways that made other species uneasy. For the Council, the presence of humans on this planet was not just a simple territorial matter. It represented a challenge to the carefully maintained balance of power across the galaxy. Council members debated among themselves, often heatedly. Some argued that humans were merely ambitious and resourceful, and that diplomacy would suffice. Others warned that humans' apparent disregard for interstellar protocol made them a potential threat. One faction pushed for direct action, proposing that a fleet be sent to the nebula as a show of strength. Yet even those advocating force recognized the humans' unpredictability. The species had a reputation for refusing orders when they believed in their own moral judgment. Unlike most civilizations the Council dealt with, humans did not rely solely on hierarchy or rules. They relied on creativity, intuition, and the courage to act in situations where other species would hesitate. This made any confrontation delicate and uncertain. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans were unaware of the full extent of the Council's concerns. The people of Earth celebrated the successes of the Zarkan colony as proof of humanity's ingenuity and determination. Schools, media networks, and government broadcasts focused on the story of a species boldly venturing into new frontiers, learning from the challenges of alien worlds, and thriving where others would fail. Citizens felt pride and excitement, imagining the colonies as a new chapter in human history. Families celebrated every news update. Students studied the engineering marvels of the colonies, and young dreamers plotted their own paths to the stars. Human culture, already steeped in stories of resilience and defiance, found in the Zarkan Nebula a real-life example of these values manifesting on a grand, cosmic scale. At the same time, the Zarkan colony itself faced a different set of pressures. The settlers were determined to maintain autonomy, to build a life that reflected their values and ingenuity. Life on the planet was challenging. The terrain was harsh, with rocky landscapes, thin atmospheres in some areas, and fluctuating climates that required constant adaptation. Colonists worked together in a tight-knit community, combining their scientific knowledge, engineering skills, and survival instincts to create a functioning society. Every day involved problem-solving, purifying water from scarce sources, growing food in unconventional soils, maintaining energy systems powered by innovative fusion reactors, and repairing machinery that was always under the strain of alien environmental conditions. Despite these challenges, humans were thriving. They had developed techniques that were startling to observers from other species. For example, they learned to manipulate native minerals into lightweight building materials stronger than steel, to grow food in artificial ecosystems that mimicked the planet's natural cycles, and to design AI systems capable of predicting environmental hazards before they occurred. These systems allowed them to act quickly and decisively, giving them a survival edge that other species found remarkable. The colony became a symbol of human ingenuity, a demonstration that the species could not only survive but flourish in conditions that were once deemed impossible. Back at the Galactic Council, the situation began to escalate. Envoys were sent to Earth to deliver a formal warning. The humans must surrender control of the Zarkan colony or face consequences. The message was diplomatic in tone but carried an unmistakable edge. The Council representatives described their power, the reach of their fleets, and the potential consequences of disobedience. They expected the humans to respond with caution, perhaps negotiation, or at the very least, some sign of willingness to compromise. What they did not expect was the reaction humanity would deliver. On Earth, the warning triggered a mix of fear, anger, and resolve. Governments convened emergency sessions to discuss the Council's demands. Citizens held protests and rallies, expressing both concern for their colonies and pride in their species' independence. Military and scientific leaders debated strategies. Some argued for compliance to avoid conflict, while others pushed for defiance, emphasizing that humanity had earned the right to control its own destiny. Behind the closed doors of strategy rooms, leaders analyzed the Council's capabilities, trying to find ways to counter their technological superiority. It became clear that humans would have to rely not on raw power, but on creativity, speed, and adaptability. The Council, meanwhile, prepared its fleets, massive warships, bristling with energy weapons and defenses far beyond anything humans had yet built, were dispatched to orbit near the Zarkan colony. These ships were a display of strength designed to intimidate, and their presence created tension not only among humans but also within the Council itself. Even those who favored restraint began to worry that humans might act unpredictably. The history of human resilience suggested that intimidation alone would not be enough to secure compliance. Within the Zarkan colony, humans noticed the approaching fleet. Distant shapes appeared in the sky, enormous and imposing, dwarfing the human ships in size and firepower. Colonists gathered to observe, their emotions mixed with awe, fear, and determination. Scientists calculated the capabilities of the alien fleet. Engineers inspected ships for possible defenses or evasive maneuvers, and leaders coordinated plans to protect both the colonists and the settlements. While some individuals felt the weight of the threat, the overall sentiment was defiance. Humans had learned over centuries that retreat or submission often led to loss of dignity, opportunity, and progress. In the face of an overwhelmingly powerful force, humans instinctively began to innovate. The rising challenge was not only external but internal. Leaders and communities within humanity had to decide how far they were willing to push against the Council. The risk of failure was enormous. A single miscalculation could destroy the colony, kill thousands, and potentially provoke the Council to retaliate elsewhere. Yet, giving in was equally unthinkable. Humans were motivated by a deep sense of identity and pride, an understanding that surrender could set a precedent for how they would be treated across the galaxy. The stakes were enormous, and the tension was palpable. Every decision, every action, became a test of strategy, courage, and collective resolve. In preparation, humans employed every tool at their disposal. Scientists worked to enhance existing technology, developing defensive systems that could operate under conditions they had never faced before. Engineers designed AI-driven drones capable of rapid reconnaissance and resource management, ensuring that humans could anticipate challenges before they became disasters. Military strategists trained personnel for maneuvers that relied on speed, deception, and ingenuity rather than brute force. Unlike most species, humans had no reliance on a single method of warfare. Their strength lay in flexibility, improvisation, and the ability to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. The Council underestimated this trait. Assuming that humans would respond predictably, they believed that presenting overwhelming power would coerce obedience. They did not realize that humans often thrived when faced with impossible odds, turning pressure into opportunity. This misunderstanding fueled the tension even further. The rising challenge was no longer just about a territorial dispute or control over resources. It became a test of willpower, intelligence, and the capacity to act boldly in the face of fear. The stage was set for a confrontation that could redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. As the days passed, diplomatic messages continued to flow, but each message was met with a mixture of analysis and defiance. Humans communicated carefully, avoiding outright insults while signaling their unwillingness to bow. Council representatives, frustrated by the lack of compliance, began to issue more urgent warnings, emphasizing potential consequences. Each warning, however, seemed to strengthen human determination rather than weaken it. Stories circulated among colonists and Earth citizens alike, emphasizing that humanity had never been a species to surrender. Tales from Earth's history of explorers, warriors, and innovators were retold in this interstellar context, reinforcing the collective resolve. Even within human communities, there were debates about how far to push. Some argued for careful negotiation, hoping to reach a compromise with the Council while preserving autonomy. Others argued for strategic defiance, emphasizing that any sign of weakness could embolden the Council or other species to impose restrictions elsewhere. This internal tension created a dynamic environment in which every decision had to be weighed for both immediate and long-term consequences. Yet, despite differing opinions, humans shared a common principle. They would not relinquish control of their colony without a fight, not necessarily through violence, but through intelligence, strategy, and resourcefulness. The rising challenge, therefore, was multifaceted. Humans faced a technologically superior opponent, a vast interstellar bureaucracy that could marshal incredible power, and the uncertainty of dealing with species whose thought processes and motivations were alien in every sense. At the same time, they had to manage internal pressures, maintain the colony's daily functions, and prepare for a confrontation that might test every skill they had developed over generations. The situation demanded courage, foresight, and the ability to remain calm under pressure, even as the stakes grew higher by the hour. Humanity's unique characteristics came to the forefront. Creativity, collaboration, and adaptability were their greatest strengths. Colonists designed contingency plans for every imaginable scenario, from sabotage to sudden environmental hazards. Scientists shared knowledge freely, combining disciplines to develop solutions faster than any individual could manage. Leaders inspired confidence, reminding everyone of past challenges humanity had overcome. From Earth's environmental disasters to earlier space missions, fraught with danger, every member of the community understood that their actions mattered, that their ingenuity and courage could shape the outcome of the challenge before them. As the Galactic Council's fleet approached, the humans' resolve solidified. They were not merely reacting. They were preparing to define the terms of their own survival and autonomy. The rising challenge had transformed from a potential conflict over territory into a test of humanity's character, intelligence, and spirit. The colony, Earth, and all of humanity were now part of a story that would echo across the galaxy. How humans responded in the coming hours and days would determine not only the fate of a single colony, but also how the galaxy perceived the species as a whole. As the Galactic Council's fleet drew closer to the Zarkan colony, the tension in human space reached a level that no one had anticipated. The massive warships appeared as dark silhouettes against the nebulous swirling clouds, immense and intimidating. Colonists watched from observation decks and orbital satellites, their eyes wide with a mix of awe, fear, and determination. These ships, many times larger and more heavily armed than anything humans had ever built, represented not just a threat to their colony but a challenge to the very essence of human independence. The Council's message had been clear: surrender or face consequences. Yet, for humans, surrender was never a simple option. Inside the colony, a flurry of activity marked the hours leading up to the encounter. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, enhancing defensive systems, fortifying critical infrastructure, and creating contingency plans for every possible scenario. AI units were upgraded to monitor environmental conditions, detect incoming threats, and provide real-time tactical analysis. Even the youngest colonists contributed, running simulations, learning emergency procedures, and helping to maintain communication networks. The entire colony became a hive of activity, each individual understanding that the moments ahead could define the future not just of their settlement, but of humanity's reputation in the galaxy. The humans' military forces, though smaller in number, focused on innovation and speed. Unlike the Council's enormous, slower-moving ships, human crafts were nimble, equipped with advanced stealth technologies and adaptive weaponry designed for precision rather than sheer destruction. Pilots trained for years in simulations of alien tactics, learning to anticipate moves and respond instantly. Strategic coordinators ran thousands of virtual battle scenarios, combining intelligence data from reconnaissance satellites with predictive algorithms to create a plan that leveraged human flexibility against the Council's overwhelming firepower. Every system, every plan, and every crew member was focused on a single objective: to survive, protect the colony, and demonstrate that humans could not be coerced by threats alone. When the Council's envoys transmitted another warning, this time more urgent and forceful, the humans responded in their own way. Rather than fear or panic, they met the message with calm assessment and strategic thinking. Communications officers studied the transmission in detail, noting subtleties in language, tone, and timing that could hint at the Council's intentions and weaknesses. Scientists examined the energy signatures of the fleet, calculating shield strengths, propulsion patterns, and potential vulnerabilities. Leaders held conferences across the colony, weighing options and emphasizing that any decision made in haste could have catastrophic consequences. Yet, even in these high-pressure moments, humans displayed a remarkable capacity to remain focused, turning tension into clarity and opportunity. The critical moment arrived when the Council fleet entered orbit around the Zircon colony, casting enormous shadows over the surface. Citizens gathered in observation areas, witnessing the enormity of the fleet for the first time. The ships were designed to intimidate. Some were over a kilometer long, with weapons capable of leveling entire cities in minutes. The Council's officers expected fierce submission and a quick resolution. They had relied on their history of dominance, assuming that no species could match their technological prowess. They were confident that the humans would comply once faced with the reality of their power. But humans were unpredictable. Instead of panic, they responded with ingenuity. Reconnaissance drones were launched, small, nearly invisible craft capable of weaving through the largest ship's radar systems. These drones gathered crucial intelligence, transmitting detailed schematics and energy readings back to human commanders. Engineers and scientists analyzed this data to develop countermeasures, using the information to identify weak points in the Council's formations. In essence, humans turned observation into strategy, transforming the threat into a source of insight that could guide their next actions. Tensions escalated further when a public broadcast was made from the United Nations Space Command. This was not a secretive message sent only to the Council. It was a declaration to the entire galaxy. Human leaders spoke with calm authority, emphasizing that while they respected the Council's history and power, they would not surrender their colony. The statement was precise yet daring, calculated to assert human sovereignty without immediately provoking direct attack. Citizens across Earth and the colonies watched and listened, feeling a surge of pride. For humans, this broadcast was more than a message. It was a statement of identity, a demonstration that fear alone could not dictate their actions. The Council, taken aback by the boldness, decided to demonstrate their might. A series of controlled displays of power were executed, weapon systems fired in space, energy beams slicing through empty sectors near the colony, and warships maneuvering with precision to showcase their readiness. The intention was clear: intimidate the humans into compliance. However, the displays had the opposite effect. Humans studied every movement, every pattern, every timing, turning what was meant to inspire fear into a blueprint for strategy. The critical moment became a contest of perception and analysis, where humans' ability to observe, adapt, and respond began to level the playing field in subtle but powerful ways. Asterisk on the ground. Within the colony, people experienced a mixture of adrenaline and focus. Emergency shelters were readied, supply chains optimized for potential disruption, and communication networks fortified against interference. Engineers constructed temporary but highly effective barriers around critical facilities, using energy, shields, and adaptive materials that could absorb or redirect the immense force of the Council's weapons. Colonists prepared for evacuation scenarios, but always with a focus on survival and continuation of their mission rather than surrender. Every action, no matter how small, was part of a larger strategy, demonstrating humanity's combination of courage, creativity, and meticulous planning. The human military, facing the possibility of direct engagement, devised a set of maneuvers that leveraged their agility against the Council's bulk. Small fighter craft, piloted by humans trained to react instinctively, moved in unpredictable patterns, forcing larger ships to adjust constantly. Decoys were deployed, simulating attacks from multiple directions, confusing the Council's sensors and command algorithms. Communication between units was near instantaneous, allowing humans to coordinate complex maneuvers without hesitation. While the Council's fleet relied on overwhelming firepower and structured formations, humans relied on unpredictability, adaptability, and rapid decision-making. This approach reflected centuries of problem-solving under pressure, a hallmark of the human species. A particularly tense moment occurred when one of the Council's largest warships attempted a direct approach toward the colony's central energy hub. Humans anticipated the move, activating a combination of cloaked interceptors and electronic countermeasures. The massive ship found itself targeted by drones, AI-piloted craft, and strategically placed energy disruptors, forcing it to retreat without striking. For the first time, the Council realized that human ingenuity could counter sheer power. The critical moment was no longer just about the fleet's arrival. It was about understanding that humans operated under a different logic. Their resourcefulness and unpredictability made them a difficult opponent to control or intimidate. In the colony's control rooms, teams of analysts and commanders remained hyper-focused. They continuously recalculated probabilities, tested contingency plans, and monitored the Council's communications for changes in strategy or emotion. Every detail mattered. A slight change in energy output, an adjustment in fleet formation, or a shift in transmission frequency could indicate intentions or weaknesses. The humans' ability to process information quickly and act decisively turned the escalating tension into an opportunity. What the Council had expected to be submission became a high-stakes game of strategy, observation, and adaptability, where the humans were proving themselves capable of thinking several steps ahead. While the Council's fleet projected intimidation, humans leveraged the critical moment to communicate a different message: defiance, confidence, and readiness. By refusing to panic, by analyzing and responding to threats with precision, they demonstrated a level of competence that few other species could match. Civilians, engineers, scientists, and military personnel all contributed to the effort, showing that the survival and success of the colony was not dependent on a single group, but on the collective effort of an entire society. The critical moment was as much about human unity and coordination as it was about facing external threats. The Council's power, though overwhelming, relied on the assumption that fear would dictate behavior. Humans turned that expectation on its head. By remaining calm, methodical, and confident, they forced the Council to reconsider the effectiveness of intimidation. Every successful maneuver, every prepared countermeasure, and every visible act of defiance eroded the assumption that humans could be easily coerced. In effect, humans were rewriting the rules of engagement without firing a single decisive shot, using intellect, strategy, and courage as their primary weapons at the same time. The escalating standoff created a deep sense of purpose within the humans. Every action, every decision, was imbued with the knowledge that they were not just defending a colony, they were defending a principle: the right to exist autonomously and make their own choices. For many, the moment transcended survival. It became a test of character. Humans, long celebrated for resilience and ingenuity, were now demonstrating these qualities on a galactic stage. Their actions sent a message not only to the Council but to every species watching. Humanity could not be intimidated into submission. The critical moment reached its peak when the Council's flagship attempted a more aggressive maneuver, moving toward the colony with apparent intent to coerce submission. Human strategists responded immediately, coordinating a multi-layered defensive and observational network that anticipated the flagship's movements. Interceptors, decoys, drones, and predictive AI systems converged in a display of coordinated efficiency that surprised even the most experienced Council officers. The flagship, forced to adjust repeatedly, was unable to achieve its objective. For the first time, the Council faced the reality that humans could confront superior technology with superior strategy, turning a moment of potential defeat into a demonstration of capability and resolve. Through all of this, civilians and colonists maintained focus and resilience. Schools, hospitals, and essential services continued to operate, supported by backup systems and volunteer teams who understood that maintaining daily life was part of maintaining morale and strategic readiness. Communities strengthened their bonds, sharing resources, knowledge, and encouragement. The combination of preparation, ingenuity, and calm under pressure transformed the escalating the threat into a unifying experience that reinforced human solidarity and determination. It was clear that the critical moment had not only tested human capability but had also reshaped the dynamic between the Zarkan colony and the Galactic Council. What began as intimidation and threat had evolved into an intricate contest of intelligence, observation, and strategy. Humans had shown that they were capable of responding to the galaxy's most powerful authority with ingenuity, courage, and unity. The escalation had reached its peak, setting the stage for the next phase, finding a resolution that would determine the future of the colony and humanity's place in the galaxy. After days of tense standoff and careful maneuvering, the situation between the humans and the Galactic Council reached a turning point. The Zarkan colony had endured constant observation, intimidation, and calculated threats from the Council fleet. Yet it had remained secure, its people determined, resourceful, and unwavering. What had begun as a potential confrontation that could have resulted in destruction evolved into a moment of diplomacy, strategy, and mutual recognition. The resolution of this crisis did not come from overwhelming force but from human ingenuity, careful planning, and the Council's realization that their assumptions about humanity had been wrong. Within the colony, leaders began to explore ways to transform the ongoing standoff into an opportunity for negotiation. They understood that their survival depended not only on maintaining defenses but also on finding a path that could prevent unnecessary bloodshed while ensuring the colony's autonomy. Strategists convened across multiple command centers, reviewing intelligence gathered from the Council fleet, examining their own capabilities, and considering psychological, social, and technological factors that could influence the outcome. They knew that patience, creativity, and clear communication would be just as critical as the defenses and tactics they had prepared for weeks. The Council, meanwhile, faced an unexpected dilemma. Their displays of power had not intimidated humans as they expected. Each action intended to force compliance had instead revealed the adaptability and strategic brilliance of the human species. Analysts and commanders on the Council ships were forced to acknowledge that the humans were not just capable of defense but had demonstrated a level of foresight, coordination, and ingenuity that few other species could match. The realization was significant. The humans were not merely stubborn or reckless, they were intelligent, resilient, and capable of operating under extreme pressure in ways that could neutralize the Council's advantages. A critical part of the resolution process involved communication. Humans initiated careful, respectful, but firm dialogue with the Council. Messages were transmitted through secure channels, emphasizing humanity's desire for peaceful coexistence while asserting their right to maintain control of the Zarkan colony. Each message was meticulously crafted, balancing diplomacy with confidence. Humans understood that tone and clarity were as important as content. They could not afford to appear weak, hesitant, or reactive. By presenting themselves as reasonable and rational actors, humans challenged the Council's perception that force or intimidation could dictate outcomes in response. The Council began to reassess their approach. They convened high-level meetings, reviewing the intelligence gathered by their fleets and analyzing the human strategies. Some members advocated for continued pressure, arguing that patience would eventually bring compliance. Others, however, recognized that prolonging the standoff could be risky. The humans' adaptability, creativity, and ability to coordinate across vast distances made them a formidable presence. Continued escalation could lead to unexpected consequences, including damage to the Council's reputation or strategic setbacks elsewhere. The debates were intense, reflecting the deep divisions among the Council members regarding the proper way to handle humanity. At the colony, preparations continued, but the tone shifted slightly. There was still vigilance, but there was also an undercurrent of optimism. Leaders focused on projecting both strength and reason. Scientists continued monitoring the Council fleet, refining their calculations to anticipate movements and energy usage. Engineers maintained defensive systems, ensuring that the colony could withstand potential attacks while also demonstrating that the humans were capable of managing their resources efficiently and responsibly. Civilians participated in community drills and simulations, understanding that resilience was not just military but social. The entire colony functioned as a cohesive unit, a reflection of human solidarity and purpose. The moment of breakthrough arrived when a human envoy proposed direct negotiation under mutually agreed terms. The humans suggested that the Council's concerns about resource control and strategic positioning could be addressed through formal agreements, collaboration, and oversight mechanisms that respected the Council's interests while preserving human autonomy. The proposal was bold, precise, and realistic, offering tangible solutions rather than abstract promises. It included shared monitoring of mining operations, scientific collaboration, and clear protocols for communication and conflict resolution. The idea was not to surrender authority but to demonstrate responsibility and reliability, showing that humans could participate in interstellar diplomacy without being forced into submission. The Council, initially skeptical, had no choice but to consider the proposal seriously. They could not ignore the humans' demonstrated capabilities, nor could they risk escalating the situation into conflict that might damage both parties. Negotiations began cautiously, with both sides exchanging detailed information, clarifying intentions, and setting boundaries. Humans provided transparent data on their operations, showing efficiency, safety measures, and environmental stewardship. This transparency reassured some. Council members that the colony was capable of self-governance without endangering the broader interstellar community. During these negotiations, human leadership emphasized principles that resonated beyond the technical and logistical details. They highlighted humanity's history of overcoming adversity, their capacity for innovation under pressure, and their commitment to responsible stewardship of resources. The message was clear. Humans were not just capable of managing the colony, they were capable of contributing to broader galactic stability through cooperation and ingenuity. This framing helped shift the Council's perception from seeing humans as a reckless threat to recognizing them as competent, capable partners with unique strengths. The resolution involved not just technical agreements but also symbolic gestures. Humans demonstrated their willingness to collaborate on projects that benefited multiple species. sharing knowledge about resource management, environmental protection, and technological innovation. These gestures helped build trust, signaling that humanity's defiance was not rebellion for the sake of chaos but a commitment to autonomy coupled with responsibility. For the Council, the demonstration of maturity, insight, and cooperative intent was critical in moving from confrontation to negotiation. As discussions progressed, compromises were made on both sides. Humans retained sovereignty over the Zarkan colony but agreed to certain interstellar regulations that balanced autonomy with oversight. The Council accepted this compromise, recognizing that humans had not only defended their position but had done so in a way that maintained interstellar stability. These agreements marked a significant turning point, showing that conflict could be avoided when intelligence, courage, and collaboration guided decisions. Humans had turned what could have been a catastrophic confrontation into a mutually beneficial resolution. The resolution phase also highlighted the importance of human social cohesion and leadership. Throughout the crisis, humans had relied on a combination of strategic planning, innovative problem-solving, and effective communication. Leaders had maintained morale, inspired confidence, and ensured that every member of the colony understood their role and responsibility. Civilians contributed actively to the process, participating in simulations, monitoring operations, and supporting essential services. The success of the resolution was not the work of a few individuals but the collective effort of an entire community acting in concert, under pressure. In addition, the resolution demonstrated humans' ability to learn and adapt in real time. They had observed the Council's fleet, analyzed patterns, anticipated actions, and modified strategies as new information became available. This capacity for rapid adaptation had been central to maintaining control of the situation and ultimately achieving a favorable outcome. It also highlighted a key aspect of human nature, the ability to transform adversity into opportunity, using challenges to demonstrate competence, build credibility, and strengthen relationships. As agreements were finalized, the humans celebrated cautiously but with pride. The Zarkan colony had survived the test of intimidation and threat, proving that determination, intelligence, and collaboration could overcome even the most powerful adversaries. The Council acknowledged the humans' success, adjusting their perception and approach toward the species. What had begun as a potential confrontation turned into a story of negotiation, respect, and strategic victory. Humans had demonstrated that defiance, when paired with responsibility and intelligence, could lead to outcomes that preserved autonomy without causing unnecessary conflict. The resolution also had long-term implications for interstellar relations. The successful negotiation set a precedent for how humans would be treated in future disputes. It showed that the species could balance assertiveness with diplomacy, creativity with responsibility, and independence with collaboration. Across the galaxy, other civilizations took note, recognizing that humans were not a species to be underestimated. Their success reinforced the idea that power alone was not always decisive. Intellect, ingenuity, and moral clarity could shift outcomes even in the face of overwhelming force. At the heart of the resolution was a profound lesson about perception and understanding. The Council had initially assumed that intimidation would compel obedience, failing to recognize the human's unique qualities. Through strategy, observation, and careful communication, humans had reshaped this perception, demonstrating that autonomy and cooperation could coexist. This outcome emphasized that conflict resolution in the galaxy did not depend solely on firepower or authority, but on the ability to assess situations, anticipate responses, and engage in creative problem-solving. By the end of this phase, the humans had not only retained their colony but had strengthened their position politically, socially, and strategically. The resolution underscored the importance of patience, foresight, and adaptability in high-stakes situations. The Zarkan colony, while still vulnerable in absolute terms, had become a symbol of human resilience, ingenuity, and the capacity to turn challenges into opportunities. Both the Council and the humans emerged from the resolution with a new understanding of each other, setting the stage for future collaboration rather than confrontation. This period also highlighted the essential human qualities that had made the resolution possible: creativity under pressure, collective problem-solving, courage, and strategic thinking. The colony's survival and the successful negotiation were not accidents but the results of deliberate, coordinated action guided by intelligence, experience, and a commitment to shared values. These qualities ensured that the humans had navigated the escalation successfully, transforming what could have been a crisis into a demonstration of competence, independence, and diplomacy. In the final analysis, the resolution of this phase reflected humanity's ability to thrive under pressure, to adapt to unprecedented challenges, and to achieve objectives through intellect, unity, and foresight. The Zarkan colony stood as a testament to what humans could accomplish when they combined determination with strategy, courage with collaboration, and independence with responsibility. The Council, recognizing this achievement, adjusted its approach, treating humans with newfound respect and recalibrating expectations for future interactions. Humans had turned the critical confrontation into a story of triumph, learning, and preparation for whatever challenges the galaxy might present next. After the intense standoff with the Galactic Council had been resolved, life for humans both on the Zarkan colony and back on Earth shifted into a period of cautious celebration, reflection, and forward planning. The threat of destruction had passed, but the lessons learned from the experience resonated deeply within human society. People understood that the events surrounding the colony were more than just a territorial dispute. They were a defining moment that would shape humanity's identity, reputation, and future in the galaxy. The aftermath of the crisis became a period of reflection, pride, and renewed ambition, as humans considered not only what they had survived but also what they had achieved on the colony itself. The first days following the resolution were marked by meticulous analysis and repair. The systems that had been stressed during the standoff, energy grids, communication arrays, defensive installations, were carefully inspected and reinforced. Engineers worked tirelessly to ensure that all technologies were functioning optimally, not only for safety but to demonstrate the resilience and self-sufficiency of the human settlement. Citizens, scientists, and military personnel all participated in these efforts, reinforcing the sense of community and shared responsibility that had been the backbone of the colony's survival. Every repair, adjustment, and improvement became a testament to human ingenuity and dedication, showing that they could thrive even in the most demanding circumstances. At the same time, the people of the Zarkan colony began to process what had just occurred. For many, it was difficult to comprehend that they had faced the full might of the galaxy's governing council and emerged not only unscathed but victorious in maintaining their independence. Conversations among colonists ranged from technical discussions about strategies and technologies to broader philosophical debates about the meaning of their victory. Many reflected on the courage and ingenuity displayed by every individual, from scientists and engineers to ordinary civilians who had contributed to the colony's resilience. It became clear that their success had not been the result of technology alone, but of human creativity, collaboration, and determination under pressure. Back on Earth, the reaction was even more profound. News of the humans' defiance and eventual negotiation with the Council spread rapidly, capturing the attention of citizens across the planet. Schools, universities, and public forums discussed the events in detail, emphasizing lessons in strategy, innovation, and unity. Children studied the crisis as part of their education, inspired by the courage and intelligence displayed by their species. Leaders highlighted the experience as a turning point in humanity's history, showing that humans could stand their ground in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations and emerging threats. The story of the Zarkan colony became a symbol of what humans could achieve when facing seemingly impossible odds. Governments and interstellar diplomats also reflected deeply on the outcome. While some nations had initially advocated caution or compliance with the Council's demands, the resolution demonstrated that a careful balance of confidence, preparation, and negotiation could achieve outcomes that were both safe and favorable. Policymakers examined the diplomatic process closely, noting how clarity, transparency, and principled communication had helped turn a potential conflict into cooperation. Lessons from the crisis informed future strategies for interstellar relations, highlighting the importance of intelligence, adaptability, and understanding in high-stakes negotiations. Humanity's reputation as both resilient and responsible had grown stronger, leaving a lasting impression on other species and civilizations. The aftermath was not only about analysis and strategy but also about reflection on human nature. The events on Zarkan highlighted traits that had long been central to humanity's identity: resilience, ingenuity, courage, and the capacity to unite under pressure. Every individual on the colony, from engineers and pilots to teachers and children, had contributed to a collective effort that had turned the crisis into an opportunity. Civilians had maintained morale, military leaders had coordinated precise and adaptive strategies, and scientists had developed innovative solutions to unprecedented problems. The reflection on these contributions reinforced the idea that human strength lay not only in technological or military capability but in social cohesion, creativity, and moral determination. For many, the experience also sparked a deeper understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. The Council, once seen as an unchallengeable authority, had been forced to reconsider its assumptions about humans. The crisis revealed that humans were not just a species to be monitored or controlled, but potential partners capable of contributing meaningfully to galactic stability. Humans learned that independence required not only courage but responsibility, that defiance must be guided by wisdom and strategy, and that survival and growth depended on understanding both allies and adversaries. These insights became central to human planning and philosophy, shaping how the species approached future challenges in space exploration, diplomacy, and interstellar collaboration. The resolution of the conflict also had significant psychological effects on humanity. On the colony, people felt a profound sense of empowerment. They had faced a threat far greater than anything previously encountered and emerged intact, their autonomy preserved. This experience reinforced confidence, inspiring greater ambition and vision for the future. citizens began exploring new scientific and technological avenues, confident that the skills, knowledge, and strategies developed during the crisis could be applied to further exploration, innovation, and development. The morale boost was significant, strengthening the social fabric of the colony and creating a culture of optimism and resilience. The sense of accomplishment extended to leadership and governance. Leaders who had navigated the standoff effectively gained credibility and trust, both among colonists and on Earth. Their ability to balance caution with assertiveness, negotiation with strategic planning, and diplomacy with resilience became a model for leadership under extreme circumstances. Lessons learned during this period influenced governance across human settlements, shaping policies that encouraged innovation, cooperation, and strategic thinking while fostering respect for individual initiative and collective responsibility. The reflection also encompassed the moral dimension of the crisis. Humans realized that their victory did not stem from aggression but from careful strategy, intelligence, and unity. The lesson was clear. True strength was not measured solely by firepower or technological superiority but by the ability to act wisely, collaboratively, and creatively under pressure. This moral reflection influenced how humans approached future interactions with the Galactic Council and other species, emphasizing negotiation, transparency, and responsible autonomy. Humanity had proven that Defiance, when guided by intellect and principle, could achieve outcomes that brute force alone could not. On a societal level, the aftermath led to a renewed appreciation for education, science, and problems. Citizens recognized that the abilities developed over generations, critical thinking, adaptability, and collaborative innovation had been decisive in the crisis. Schools emphasized these skills even more, encouraging students to think creatively, work together, and develop solutions to complex problems. Scientific institutions analyzed the data collected during the standoff, using it to enhance research, technology, and understanding of interstellar dynamics. The collective reflection reinforced the importance of investing in knowledge, preparation, and intellectual courage as a foundation for future resilience. The Zarkan colony also became a symbol of human determination and capability. For other species in the galaxy, observers from other civilizations studied the human strategies, ingenuity, and unity, gaining insights into how this species approached problems and challenges. The narrative of defiance, negotiation, and resolution spread across interstellar networks, creating a reputation for humanity as resourceful, courageous, and principled. This reputation opened doors for collaboration, trade, and shared projects, establishing humans as respected participants in galactic affairs. The aftermath was not merely recovery, it was a moment of recognition and validation, demonstrating that humans could hold their own among advanced civilizations. Amidst all of this, individuals took time for personal reflection. Colonists who had lived through the tense moments of potential annihilation considered their own growth and resilience. They realized that the crisis had revealed hidden strengths, sharpened problem-solving abilities, and fostered a deep sense of community. Families celebrated survival and achievements, while children looked forward to a future in which the stars seemed more attainable than ever before. The reflection extended beyond the practical into the philosophical. Humans contemplated the meaning of courage, unity, and responsibility in the vastness of space, appreciating the ways in which adversity had shaped them. The experience also encouraged humans to think about the future strategically. They recognized that the galaxy was vast and filled with unknowns. Challenges similar to the Zarkan confrontation would arise again, and humans would need to be prepared, not only technologically but socially and intellectually. Lessons from the aftermath informed research priorities, military training, diplomatic protocols, and colony management practices. Humanity committed to building systems that were resilient, adaptable, and capable of responding to unforeseen circumstances. Understanding that survival depended on both planning and creativity. At the same time, humans appreciated the value of diplomacy and alliances. The resolution had demonstrated that negotiation, clarity, and principle could achieve what intimidation and coercion could not. Humans began establishing more structured communication channels with other species, seeking to prevent misunderstandings and build cooperative frameworks. They recognized that defiance without responsibility could lead to unnecessary conflict, while responsible autonomy could secure freedom, respect, and long-term influence in interstellar affairs. The aftermath also encouraged a cultural renaissance. Stories of the standoff, the strategies employed, and the courage displayed became central to human storytelling. Education and art plays, books, simulations, and interactive experiences recounted the events in ways that highlighted ingenuity, resilience, and collective effort. The experience became a source of inspiration, reminding humans of the values that had carried them through adversity: unity, creativity, courage, and intelligence. These narratives ensured that the lessons of the Zarkan colony would be remembered and applied for generations to come. The reflection extended to the Galactic Council as well. Members acknowledged that they had underestimated humans and learned that assumptions about a species' behavior could be misleading. The Council recognized that humans combine qualities of unpredictability, ingenuity, and moral conviction in ways that demanded respect. This newfound understanding led to more cautious, balanced, and cooperative interactions in the future. While the Council retained authority in broader galactic governance, their approach toward humans shifted from dominance to mutual respect, understanding that a species capable of strategic defiance could also be a valuable partner. Ultimately, the aftermath and reflection highlighted the essence of humanity. Humans had survived a situation that could have led to destruction, not through raw power but through intelligence, preparation, collaboration, and moral courage. The Zarkan colony's endurance and the subsequent negotiation had proved that the species could face overwhelming odds and emerge stronger, wiser, and more respected. Lessons in strategy, creativity, unity, and diplomacy were absorbed not only by leaders and scientists but by ordinary citizens, shaping a collective consciousness that valued resilience, collaboration, and principled action. In the years following the resolution, humanity continued to expand into space, equipped not only with advanced technology but with invaluable experience. The reflection on the Zarkan standoff became a cornerstone of human culture, informing exploration, diplomacy, and defense strategies. Citizens and leaders alike carried forward the understanding that independence must be defended intelligently, that challenges must be met with preparation and creativity, and that cooperation could amplify strength rather than diminish it. The aftermath of the crisis was a period of learning, growth, and inspiration, showing that humanity's true power lay not merely in technology or numbers, but in courage, intellect, and the unyielding spirit to stand firm in the face of adversity. Through all of this, humans recognized a broader truth. The galaxy was full of unknown challenges, and survival required more than force. It required vision, cooperation, insight, and courage. The Zarkan colony had survived, and humanity had emerged wiser, stronger, and more united. The lessons from the crisis would guide the species as it continued to explore the stars, negotiate with other civilizations, and face the unpredictable challenges of life among the galaxies. The reflection on this period became a lasting testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and the remarkable ability to thrive, even when the odds seemed impossible.